Loyalty didn't just fail here. It got priced out, traded in, and completely replaced by a multi-million-dollar empire. The second Brat dropped those 4 words, "She chose money over me," it wasn't a warning shot. It was an absolute detonation. This wasn't some soft emotional drift. It was a cold, structural execution. Brat was present long before the commercial noise, before the massive retail expansions, and before corporate power flipped the balance of their household. She brought cultural legacy, 3 decades of hip-hop history, and unconditional devotion to the table. But the second Judy departs, commercial trajectory skyrocketed, the internal dynamic shifted. History was treated as a liability, and love was rewritten as an adjustable business expense. When lifestyle upgrades, corporate board meetings, and high-stakes retail contracts take over a marriage, decisions cease to be about mutual partnership. They turn into ruthless financial operations. Brat wasn't merely left behind. She was actively out-negotiated inside her own home. Because when emotional distance turns into an intentional business strategy, it's no longer a simple marital dispute. It's a complete corporate takeover. And the harsh realities that surfaced right after that statement exposed a reality that television cameras had spent years trying to polish. The initial shock of that forward confession instantly exposed structural cracks that had been widening since their high-profile wedding on February 22, 2022. To understand the weight of that breakdown, you have to look at the massive gap between their origins. Brat entered this union carrying a legendary music career as the first female solo rapper to achieve platinum status with her 1994 debut album Functified. Her understanding of commitment was built on old-school principles. Loyalty wasn't loud. It was unconditional, protective, and permanent. When Jessica Judy Depart entered the picture, the energy transformed from a personal bond into a high-speed corporate engine. As the founder and CEO of Kaleidoscope Hair Products, Judy brought aggressive venture expansion and massive capital into a space that previously ran on artistic passion. When they launched their WeTV reality series Brat Loves Judy, the public saw a celebrated union of heart and hustle, 2 self-made women building a family side by side. But behind that edited broadcast, a dangerous financial imbalance was taking root. Money began moving at a speed that emotional intimacy couldn't keep up with. National retail distribution deals across major chains required Judy to make swift, independent executive choices. Corporate doors opened that Brat wasn't positioned to enter, not because affection disappeared overnight, but because commercial equity fundamentally alters authority inside a marriage. Brat had spent decades acting as the primary breadwinner, cultural icon, and emotional shield in her previous chapters. That protective identity was how she measured her standing. As Judy's hair care brand expanded into nationwide beauty supply chains, the ground beneath them tilted violently. Suddenly, the 90s rap pioneer was no longer setting the pace. She was being asked to adjust to a corporate schedule dictated by product launches and executive travel. For a pioneer who built her entire career on independence, that shift was deeply disorienting. Still, she committed to the marriage, trusting that domestic alignment would eventually return. But commercial acceleration doesn't wait for emotional recalibration. Production schedules for their reality show tightened. Continuous business trips replaced personal downtime, and strategy calls crowded out private conversation. What started as minor schedule conflicts quickly turned into a rigid, non-negotiable routine. Rush check-ins between business meetings replaced real communication. Brat, geared toward intuitive emotional connection, recognized the shift long before it hit the press. On television, they maintained coordinated red carpet appearances and co-parenting announcements, but off-camera, their day-to-day lives were moving on entirely separate tracks. Major financial and lifestyle moves began occurring without mutual consent. Investments were finalized, domestic routines were altered, and long-term plans shifted without shared discussion. None of these individual adjustments seemed explosive in isolation, but accumulated over time, they proved that strategic ambition had completely superseded the original marital contract. When Brat finally confronted the growing distance, she was met with operational logic rather than personal vulnerability. She brought raw heartbreak to the table, only to receive outcome-focused explanations and detached rationalizations about corporate scaling. That was the exact moment their shared language collapsed. Leverage had taken over the living room, and the larger Judy's commercial footprint grew, the more Brat was expected to quietly integrate into a lifestyle she had zero hand in structuring. The breaking point didn't manifest as a loud shouting match. It arrived through cold, directional separation. Judy executed a definitive push toward global brand expansion, prioritizing capital access and market presence, even if it meant stepping forward without a spouse operating at a different pace. For Brat, that move was an unforgivable line in the sand, not simply because dollars were involved, but because the expansion was planned without prioritizing the marriage first. Decades of quiet sacrifices, including stepping back from intense music touring to anchor their Atlanta household and focus on the birth of their son, True Legend, in July 2023, came pouring out in sheer frustration. The deepest wound wasn't the end of a romantic chapter. It was the realization that her sacrifices were treated as background noise the moment higher commercial opportunities presented themselves. Judy's position hardened into executive detachment, framing the shift around personal growth, brand timing, and market evolution. Every explanation sounded like a corporate press release, ignoring the personal cost and proving Brat's underlying fear. This wasn't an accidental drift, but an active realignment where emotional commitment lost all its value the second massive financial power took the wheel. That corporate detachment completely reframed the public legacy of their partnership. When justifications like scaling and individual growth were offered, the dispute evolved from a private marriage failure into a public clash of core values. Brat's frustration sharpened into precise accountability. She publicly called out the reality of being managed rather than consulted, waking up to a structured existence she never signed off on, yet was expected to endorse for the cameras. The timing of this internal collapse made the fallout hit with maximum impact. It unfolded right as their public image as an unstoppable power couple was being heavily monetized through television renewals and joint brand endorsements. Audiences who had watched their journey since their 2020 public coming out began reevaluating every televised interaction with fresh scrutiny. Scenes that were once edited as playful banter on Brat Loves Judy suddenly looked like documented evidence of financial domination. The contrast was stark. On one side was a hip-hop Hall of Famer who had paused her solo trajectory to build a stable home, and on the other was a relentless CEO building a commercial empire that left zero room for emotional compromise. The core issue became undeniable. Was this a story of an entrepreneur leaving her partner behind, or a predictable fallout when a marriage gets treated like a subsidiary business? Brat's anger wasn't rooted in a loss of temper. It was rooted in the loss of foundational respect. In the early stages of their union, her legendary name and deep industry connections provided Judy with massive cultural crossover appeal and instant mainstream visibility. But as Kaleidoscope hair products crossed multi-million-dollar valuation thresholds, that original cultural bump was no longer required for Judy's business operations. The company had outgrown its need for celebrity backing, effectively stripping Brat of her initial leverage. This shift trapped Brat in a severe psychological dilemma. Remaining in the marriage meant accepting a diminished role, muting her legendary persona, accepting prepackaged decisions, and acting as a silent partner to someone else's corporate rise. Leaving, however, meant accepting that years of personal compromise and public dedication had been written off as mere stepping stones. The options were brutal: remain silent in a golden cage, or walk away and watch the empire move forward without missing a beat. Judy's pragmatic corporate mindset added fuel to the fire. In high-level enterprise, decisions are driven strictly by metrics, efficiency, and growth targets. When that cold operational framework was applied to a domestic union, it eliminated the emotional empathy necessary to navigate personal conflict. Every attempt Brat made to reset their personal bond was processed as an interruption to the business schedule. They were operating on two completely incompatible frequencies, one seeking emotional reassurance, the other executing a corporate roadmap. As the divide widened, the silent sacrifices Brat had made for family stability became a source of intense resentment. She had deliberately moderated her solo recording career and radio commitments to ensure their household remained grounded during Judy's intense national travel schedules. Realizing that her presence at home was being interpreted not as an essential foundation, but as a lack of personal ambition, was the ultimate betrayal. Her choice to prioritize family was being used to justify her exclusion from high-level decision-making. The silence between them rapidly solidified into an operational divide. Legal strategies, independent brand deals, and separate living arrangements were finalized without mutual consultation. The shared vision that once anchored their public brand fractured into competing agendas. Brat refused to continue shrinking her identity to fit inside an empire that didn't value her input, while Judy refused to slow down commercial expansion for a personal dynamic that no longer served her corporate timeline. The situation reached a critical point where compromise was mathematically impossible. When emotional loyalty gets evaluated on a spreadsheet, the core of a marriage is already dead. The fallout moved far beyond typical celebrity gossip. It became a documented case study in how rapid wealth creation can dismantle the very relationships that supported its build-up. The aftermath completely destroyed the pristine narrative that had been presented on television for years. What remains verified on the public record is the rapid divergence of their daily lives. Corporate filings for Kaleidoscope hair products showed aggressive expansion into thousands of retail stores nationwide, demanding constant board oversight and executive travel. Simultaneously, Brat's public schedule anchored around her long-standing role on the Ricky Smiley morning show and private parenting duties in Atlanta. The physical and structural reality was undeniable. One path was built on relentless corporate expansion, while the other was rooted in media stability and family life. As details of their internal friction circulated across media outlets, public sentiment underwent a massive shift. Initial press coverage had brushed off the tension as creative differences or scripted reality show drama. However, as the reality of their separate lives became obvious, the public narrative transformed. Audiences stopped viewing Brat's frustration as dramatic venting and began recognizing it as the logical response of a partner being structurally sidelined. Media commentary shifted from celebrating Judy's standalone business metrics to questioning the personal costs paid by those who supported the rise behind the scenes. Within the broader entertainment industry, this fracture triggered serious discussion about the survival rate of celebrity partnerships following massive financial power shifts. Business analysts noted that when an individual's brand evolves from personal artistry into multi-million-dollar corporate infrastructure, traditional domestic agreements rarely survive the pressure. Massive retail distribution contracts demand total risk control and relentless time commitments, a corporate structure that inherently clashes with the artistic freedom and personal authenticity that defined Brat's 30-year career. The professional consensus was cold. The business entity had officially outgrown the personal union that birthed it. The climax of this public evolution didn't result in an explosive media feud or a staged TV reconciliation. Instead, it produced a cold, permanent shift in personal boundaries. Brat's public posture underwent a complete transformation. The emotional venting stopped entirely, replaced by an impenetrable, calculated silence. She ceased offering public explanations, redirecting her platform toward her own artistic legacy and independent self-respect. The frustration that once spilled into her commentary didn't disappear. It solidified into a permanent wall. The lesson had been fully absorbed. When loyalty is treated as optional, continuing to demand respect only diminishes your standing. By choosing complete distance over endless negotiation, Brat drew a line that no amount of corporate wealth, public pressure, or media scrutiny could ever dismantle again. The dust has settled, but the fundamental reality remains completely exposed. This was never just a breakdown over fame or miscommunication. It was a brutal lesson in what happens when a multi-million-dollar empire enters a home and forces a choice between shared history and independent financial leverage. Brat didn't just walk away from a marriage. She exited with the hard-earned understanding that when corporate velocity takes over, loyalty can be priced right out of the room. Judy's commercial footprint continues to expand across national retail markets, while Brat has closed the chapter on justifying her worth to anyone. But as both navigate their lives in entirely separate orbits, the ultimate lessons of this power shift continue to resonate far beyond the headlines. Now look at this situation and ask yourself, when massive financial success completely rewrites the balance inside a home, is walking away with your dignity the ultimate power move? Or is expecting unconditional loyalty in a business-driven world just wishful thinking? If you were standing in Brat's shoes, would you have adjusted your voice to fit inside the empire? Or would you have pulled the plug the moment money took over the conversation? Drop your raw thoughts in the comments below and hit that subscribe button with notifications turned on, because as the reality behind these headlines continues to unfold, this story is far from over.